What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 178 of the Idiotic Sports Talk. I'm your host, Liam Gavin, coming to you live from my bedroom. And today I want to give you all my NFC divisional picks of who's going to win their division, what place they're going to fall. And let's break it down. I'm going to do the AFC one, but that's going to be a second part video. So let's start with the NFC North. We have the Vikings who won last year. Lions were in second place, Packers in third, and Bears in fourth. So this division is rather interesting. I think it's a toss-up. I think any single team can win this division. I mean, you look at the Vikings. They lost a lot on defense. They lost a stud receiver also in Adam Thielen. They lost pieces on their offensive line. But they do have the best quarterback in that division in Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. I have him ranked at number 10. The guy's really good. I mean, you know, he has his playoff issues. He has big game issues, but there's no denying of how good Kirk Cousins is. He has Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league. They also drafted this rookie, Jordan Addison, who I think is going to make a really big splash. They did lose Dalvin Cook. They did lose the running back, but I think Alexander Madison is ready to take that next step. And then they have the tight end, TJ Hawkinson, which outside of Travis Kelce last year, there was no productive tight ends in the league except for TJ Hawkinson. They made a trade with their inner rival, Detroit, and they got TJ Hawkinson, and he's panned out very well for them. So let's see how he does in year two with the Vikings under this offense. Kevin O'Connell is also a very underrated coach, I think. You know, they won 13-4 last year. They did get bounced in the first round by the Giants, but their defense was a huge part of that. Their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. And honestly, I haven't seen much defensive improvements by them this offseason. They did lose Patrick Peterson. I know he's towards the end of his prime. You know, he's pretty much out of his prime towards the end of his career. But I think I might be mistaken, but he did lead the league in pass deflections last year. So big loss to their secondary. We'll really see what the Vikings can do. You know, I mean, do they repeat as champs? I don't know, because you have another team like the Lions. The Lions, I believe they were 2-7 last year, and then they went on this amazing run. They finished 9-8, and they missed the playoffs. And Coach Dan Campbell, he has that squad fired up. He's a Coach of the Year favorite, and I can see why. You know, they have a ton of talent on the ball, especially the offensive side. Jared Goff's made big improvements to his game. They got the rookie running back, Jahmyr Gibbs. They got David Montgomery in free agency from the Bears. They have Jameson Williams, who's a second-year receiver. He was out pretty much all last year. He did have he did get caught gambling, so he's going to be suspended for some games this season. But then they have another stud receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So this Lions team is pretty loaded. Their offensive line got better. My question is on the defense, though. Who are they going to have defensively to stop other teams when they face them? The Lions have a lot of hype for going 9-8 and missing the playoffs, but I definitely see them spinning things around. I looked at their schedule. I think the worst they can go is maybe 8-9, but I have them going probably 10-7 or 11-6 at best. So yeah, I mean, they have to dethrone the Vikings. The Vikings, I have them taking a step back. I think the worst they can go is also 8-9, and the best they can go is 11-6. And then you have a third team in the Bears who are up and coming. The Bears, they have Justin Fields, a guy, you know, he's not that great of a passer, but he never really had receivers around him to throw the ball to. He's ran the ball. He can run the ball like crazy, though. One of the best running quarterbacks in the league outside of Lamar Jackson. He needs to get his passing game down, and maybe he's worked on that. And what's really helped the Bears is that they got DJ Moore in a trade from Carolina earlier this season for the first overall pick. The Bears got a boatload of assets for that too. So DJ Moore, I saw a play that him and Fields had in the preseason was a touchdown. So hopefully DJ Moore can help out that passing game for the Bears. Their defense has always been under the radar, always been good, even back to the Khalil Mack days in 2018, 2019. You know, I don't really see the Bears making the playoffs, but I do have them at best 7-10 or 8-9, and at worst, I think they go 5-12. And then the final team, the Packers, probably the biggest wild card team in the league. They have a top coach with Matt LaFleur. I know Aaron Rodgers departed, and now the keys to the city are on this kid named Jordan Love. They drafted him 3 years ago, very high in the first round. And, there's been a lot of question marks around him, thinking if he's the guy, if he can do it. But, you learn under Aaron Rodgers for 3 years, you're going to learn something, and there's always been that talk that Aaron Rodgers wasn't there for him, blah, blah, blah. But, we'll really see how he comes to play. I think he's going to be good, honestly. If you look at the Packers' history, and I hate the Packers, being a Cowboys fan, they always beat us. But I have to put my non-bias aside. And you look at the Packers, they had Favre. They had him for numerous years. Rodgers learned under Favre. Rodgers came in, he had a tough first year, but then, boom, his second year he excelled. And by his third or fourth year, he's a Super Bowl champ. So the Packers have a really rich history of having these elite quarterbacks, having them learn for a few years, and then getting to play, and then having them just really excel. So you really can't count out the Packers. I looked at their schedule. I think at best they go 10-7, and at worst they go 6-11. But I think they're going to go 8-9, miss the playoffs, but definitely surprise some people. So if I have to pick a winner, I'm going to have to say it's the Vikings or Lions, but I'm going to go with the Vikings until they're proven to be beaten otherwise. They're going to reign the division, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with pretty much the same layout as I did as it was last year. Vikings at 1, Lions at 2, 3 would be the Packers, 4 would be the Bears. But the Bears and Packers could definitely switch. Onto the NFC South, another division wide open, completely wide open. The Bucs won it last year. Falcons got second. The Saints got third, and the Carolina Panthers were in fourth. So this is a whole different NFC South now. No one knows who can win this division. You have the Saints, who signed Derek Carr this offseason. Big move for them because ever since Drew Brees left, they've had a hard time trying to find that quarterback. And it seems like they could get the guy with Derek Carr. Now, I don't think Derek Carr is really anything special, but he is a good quarterback. He's got to be top 15 in the league, maybe like top 18, you'd say. And he just, he was in Vegas, Oakland, whatever you want to call it. He was with the Raiders, never really had a lot of help there besides with Amari Cooper. And then they had Darren Waller, who was always getting banged up. And then they had running the ball Josh Jacobs. So, he really never had that much help. He did have Devontae Adams last year, but their team was just a mess. But speaking of the Saints, they have a top defense. Their coach, it's a little in the question mark. Dennis Allen, we'll see how he does. But if they could stay healthy, they can make a run, in my opinion. There's, they have Michael Thomas, but that guy can never stay healthy. They have the second-year upcoming receiver, Chris Olave, who I really liked last year. He really stepped up. And they have an underrated tight end in Juwan Johnson. Alvin Kamara will be suspended for about 3 or 4 games, though, so that will hurt their running game. But people got to remember how lethal Kamara is on the field. Last year he was but this year, he could really return to his old form. And so, yeah, the Saints, I looked at their schedule. It's pretty favorable, too. I think they could finish at best 10-7 and at worst 7-10, but they could definitely win this division. So the next you look at the Falcons, right? The Falcons, they were pretty bad last year, but towards the end of the year, they started winning some games. They're going to have Desmond Ridder. He's going to be in his second year. Pretty much his whole first year, because he only played about 4 or 5 games last year. He didn't really look that great, but he was kind of thrown into the fire. And with a whole offseason, a whole camp of training, the Falcons can really do something. They drafted Bijan Robinson, the running back, this year in the draft. The kid's projected to be a complete stud, probably the best back in this draft. And we'll see when Sundays come around. I believe in the kid, and even if he's nothing that great in his first year, they still have Tyler Algier, second-year player who could run the ball very hard, and they just have a very good running game. I believe they had the number 1 running attack in the league last year. They made improvements to their offensive line. They made improvements to their defense, so I don't see why they can't win this division. At best, I think they could go 9-8 or 10-7. And at worst, I think they could go 6-11, but we'll really see what happens. I mean, it's the NFC South. It's a toss-up. Next, you have the Carolina Panthers. So they drafted Bryce Young with their first overall pick in this year's draft. The kid was pretty good in college. There's problems. He's very short. He's small. So people question, can he see over the offensive line? But there's no denying that the athleticism and talent is there for Bryce Young. And I'm just looking forward to see what he does. You know, you can never really be too hard on a rookie quarterback right away, who especially is being thrown into the fire, who's supposed to lead this team to, you know, greatness, to wins, to a Super Bowl. So there's really not that much pressure on him, but I believe that he has a chance to be good. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. The Panthers kind of don't really have anything around him. You know, they got rid of DJ Moore. They got rid of McCaffrey last year. So we'll see. They do have a good defense. I know that Brian Burns, their captain of their defense, is kind of in contract negotiations, and it's not really going anywhere. But if they can lock him up, man, that's huge. And the final team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they have Baker Mayfield as their quarterback now because Tom Brady retired. The GOAT finally hung it up after 20-something years of amazing seasons, 7 Super Bowl titles. So what more can you say? The keys of the team are now going to Baker Mayfield, who we all know Baker, you know, he's had his struggles. He's had his moments where he looked good. I don't think he's that bad of a quarterback. I think he gets a lot of hate for no reason. You know, he's very confident in himself, and people don't like when other people or players are just confident. For some reason, it turns them off. For me, I like that, you know. What is he supposed to say? Like, oh, I have no confidence going in this year? No, man. He's supposed to be confident. And the reason why you can't count out the Bucs is because look at their team around him. You know, they still have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They have this second-year running back, Rachaad White, who's up and coming. Their offensive line is still pretty good, even though I saw that Ryan Jensen's most likely out for the season with an injury. And then you look at their defense. Their defense is still pretty good. I know they struggled last year, but the thing is that team has multiple Super Bowl champions still on the roster. They won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, so those guys know what it's like to win at the highest level. I looked at their schedule. I think the best they can go is 9-8, and worse is maybe 5-12. Maybe I'm being generous. A lot of people have been winning 3 games. I just don't see that with all those weapons they have. So if you ask me to put them in order, I'm going to go with, man, it's so tough. I guess I'll put the Saints winning the division, Falcons second, Bucks third, and Panthers fourth. So on to the NFC East, my favorite division, home of the Cowboys. I can't wait. Let's get this started. We had the Eagles 14-3 last year. They lost the Super Bowl. They've lost some people this season through free agency, but they also drafted some studs on the defense. They pretty much have the whole Georgia Bulldogs defense on their team. And Jalen Hurts, as much as I can't stand him because he's an Eagle, I don't expect him to get worse. I really don't. They still have a great offensive line, the best in the league, in my opinion. And they still have 2 stud receivers with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, who are arguably the best duo in the league right now as the receivers. And then they have Dallas Goedert. I was talking about tight ends before with T.J. Hockenson. I completely forgot to throw in that Dallas Goedert's arguably the second best tight end in the league right now. He's definitely top 3. So the Eagles, I hope they have a big fall off. I hope they go 0-17. But I looked at their schedule. I think the best they'll do is 13-4, but I think at worst 9-8. As for my Cowboys, they got second place last year in the division. I'm looking forward to this Cowboys squad. I really am. Something about it, and it's got to do with the defense, I think. They signed Stephon Gilmore, so now they have that number 2 lockdown cornerback. Last year, that's what they didn't have. They got another piece in the secondary, Deron Bland. Led the rookies in interceptions with 5 last year. He's going to be a second-year player. I'm looking forward to his next step. Their safety trio is arguably the best in the league, very underrated. And then there's Micah Parsons. You got Micah Parsons running at you. You're going to have a tough day if you're a quarterback. And then DeMarcus Lawrence on the line. I think this defense has potential to be one of the best in Cowboys history. It's going to come down to the offense. You know, I love Dak. He had his struggles last year, but let's see what he can do. If he can limit the turnovers, the Cowboys are going to be very dangerous. The running game kind of gets me worried. Zeke Elliott is gone now. He's on the Patriots. And so now they have Tony Pollard, great running back. He did hurt his ankle back in January against the Niners in the playoffs. So we'll see how he comes back. And then besides that, though, they don't really have that much depth. I do like this kid, Deuce Vaughn, the rookie that they drafted in the 6th or 7th round this past year. He kind of has that Darren Sproles to him where he can just find the hole and burst, and he's just very shifty. He could catch. So I'm looking forward to it. Another thing that worries me about the Cowboys is their coach with Coach McCarthy. You know, I got to give the guy credit. You know, they went 6-10 their first year. Dak was out pretty much the whole season. You know, after Game 5, he was done when he broke his ankle. And it was a COVID year. Nobody could, you know, there was online practices and all that stuff. So I didn't really count that. But then since then, He's went 24-10 as their coach, 2 playoff appearances, a playoff win. So I tip my hat to him a little bit, but he's going to be calling the plays. We'll see how he puts it together. I know that they have Brian Schottenheimer as their offensive coordinator. I don't really know how to feel about that. He wasn't really that great in Seattle, but of course, me as a Cowboys fan, I got to stay positive. At worst, I see them going 9-8, and at best, I think they go 12-5. The next team was the Giants. They finished third in the division, and there's a lot of hype around the Giants. Some people say they're being disrespected. I think they're being treated perfectly. They signed Daniel Jones to a big contract this offseason. They paid Saquon Barkley for, I believe, $12 million for 1-year deal, which is important because without Barkley on that team, he was about 70% of their offense. But they also did get Darren Waller from the Raiders. They signed him. And if he could stay healthy, the Giants have a very good offense going. They drafted Jalen Hyatt. He's going to be a rookie. Very good deep threat for this team. And then their defense, their interior line is one of the best in the league with guys like Dexter Lawrence on there. And their secondary is a question mark, though. That's for sure. I don't think their secondary is that good. And we're going to find out week 1 when the Cowboys play them. But I think at best, I see the Giants going 10-7 and at worst 7-10. And the final team, the 4th place team, was the Washington Commanders. They were very bad in the beginning. They turned it up towards the end of the season. And they have probably one of the best defenses in the league with Chase Young, Deron Payne. They just have studs everywhere on that defensive line. And it's going to be tough to run the ball against them. Their secondary's gotten better too. But, their offense, we'll see how their offense is. I know Terry McLaurin's pretty good. But, sometimes he has those games where he disappears. Sam Howell's going to be in his 2nd year. I know he only had 1 start. Ironically, he beat my Cowboys in his first game he ever played. But let's see what he can do in year 2. Let's see what preparations he's made and what the Commanders did to help him. They do have Coach Ron Rivera, which, I'm not really a fan of him. I like him, obviously, but I just don't think he's that coach to get a team to the next level. They did take the Chiefs offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, and they made him the offensive coordinator for the Commanders, he's a very, very good OC. He's a wizard when it comes to schemes and whatnot. So we'll see. I think at best the Commanders go 8-9, and at worst 4-13. So if I have to rank them, I'm going to go through. Obviously, I'm picking the Cowboys to win the East. Eagles 2nd, Giants 3rd, Commanders 4th. On to the final division in the NFC, the NFC West. The Niners won it last year. Seahawks got 2nd. 3rd place team was the Rams, and 4th place was the Cardinals. So let's take a look at the Niners, though, right? They got Brock Purdy. They said goodbye to Jimmy G. They gave the team to Brock Purdy, who he played phenomenal. He played phenomenal in the NFC Championship game. I know he hurt his elbow, his UCL. He tore it. So we'll see how he comes back from that. Supposedly he's already recovered and he's looking great. And even if he doesn't, they have Sam Darnold as their number 2, which Sam Darnold, he was never given a fair chance over in New York with the Jets. But I think if he has to take over, he's going to have tons of top talent around them. And if you look at the offense of the Niners, Deebo Samuel at receiver, Brandon Ayuk as their number 2 receiver, George Kittle as their tight end. It's pretty unfair, honestly. Their offensive line's very good. Their running game is amazing, too, with Christian McCaffrey and then Elijah Mitchell. So I expect the Niners to do big things this year. I think they're going to go 13-4 again, and I think at worst they go 9-8. And, so they're probably my favorite to win the division. But then the second team I'm going to talk about is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks made tons of good moves this year, both on offense and defense. Geno Smith's going to enter his 2nd year playing with this team. He had a great season. I know Geno Smith has been awful pretty much his whole career, but he really bounced back under Pete Carroll. And I just expect him to go to that next level and continue to build off what he did last year. And he's got such a good core around him. He's got DK Metcalf as a receiver, Tyler Lockett as a receiver. They picked up that kid Jackson Smith and Nimba. I think I pronounced his name right, but he's supposed to be a very good receiver coming up. And then their running game, Kenneth Walker, a 2nd-year player. So I expect the Seahawks to do some good things. They could dethrone the Niners. That's a team to watch out for. It's definitely a dark horse team. I think they could finish 11-6, and at worst they can go 7-10. And now on to the Rams. Matt Stafford and the Rams. Matt Stafford's been hurt. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but he really struggled last year with injuries and just his play. They have Cooper Kupp, a stud receiver, but also has been bitten by the injury bug one too many times. Of course, they still have Aaron Donald, the captain on the defensive side, arguably the best defensive tackle, arguably the best defender in NFL history. And it's just interesting to see what this team does. You know, Sean McVay is a great coach, but last year they really had their struggles. If they could stay healthy, they can maybe make some noise. I just don't see it. I think at best they go 8-9, and at worst they probably go 4-13. And the final team, the Arizona Cardinals. So Kyler Murray had a tragic injury last year where he tore his ACL. He's still not recovered. He's supposed to miss the first few games of this season. And the Cardinals, they just lost a lot of people, too. They got rid of their number one receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. They have a good receiver in Marquise Brown, but he ain't no DeAndre Hopkins. And they've just lost a lot of pieces this year. And they just seem like they're supposed to be the team that gets 0 wins this year. I don't think any team's going to have 0 wins. I think they'll at least win 3 games. It's just so hard to pick those games. I looked at their schedule and they're in for a rude awakening. I think the best they go is 5-12, and that's being generous. And at worst, they go 2-15. So if I have to make the division in order, I'm gonna go with the Niners 1, Seahawks 2, Rams 3, Cardinals 4, just like last year. So that's it for my NFC predictions. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your division picks are. I'm going to make part 2 for the AFC coming up just in a few minutes. So let me know what you guys think. You know, give me some feedback. I always appreciate it. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on my Instagram page. Take care. Have a wonderful night.